Hey guys, it's Holly. Welcome back to my channel. So I'm just doing a quick little health update. I'm talking kind of low because everyone's sleeping right now. But so fairly recently, I kind of talked in some of my videos about how I've been getting a lot of upper respiratory infections and I've been getting a lot of, in general, just colds, and a couple of times I had a couple of pretty bad bouts of bronchitis that were only like 2 months apart. I had a sinus infection that turned into bronchitis. I had a cold that turned into bronchitis. And so it's really been hard for me. And honestly, I've been this way for like the past 10 or 11 years since having a tonsillectomy. And so I've honestly always felt like that has definitely played a role because the tonsils are part of your lymphatic system. And I did a whole video on bronchitis. I did a whole video on, what was it? I can't recall. I did a whole video on kind of what I'm going through. And I've definitely done various videos fairly recently on kind of just what I've been going through, upper respiratory infections, and just respiratory issues in general. And so here lately, I guess I was a little bit concerned that I might have asthma or something going on. Um, and so I finally went to my primary care physician just to kind of like talk to her about it. So the doctor that I have for primary care is she's extremely helpful. She's a lot like me in that she really likes to approach a problem from all standpoints. So she really likes to approach it holistically from every angle instead of just looking at it in, oh, let's look at it in a completely natural way or a completely conventional medicine type of way. We look at it from all standpoints and we look at all the different solutions. And so I'm very thankful I found her because that's how I am. So I definitely resonate with that. But so finally found out that at least for now, I do not have asthma. I don't have anything like that going on. I don't have any health conditions. I had my blood work done and I still have not gotten the results back from my complete blood work. I did like a comprehensive metabolic panel and all that kind of thing, my thyroid, and I'm supposed to get the results back for that tomorrow, or at least for sure by the end of this week. So I'll definitely let you guys know how that comes out in a short little video. But all of the blood work should be normal. But anyways, so essentially, I talked to my doctor about this, and I'm just kind of like, I'm talking to her. I'm like, okay, well, what, why do I keep getting sick like this? Because I feel like I have a really good immune system, which I do. I very rarely get sick with anything else at all. I don't catch stomach viruses hardly ever. I don't get really anything else. I only just get respiratory infections. And so basically, she said exactly what I was hoping she would say, which was, well, because I actually mentioned, I was like, well, I had a tonsillectomy. And after the tonsillectomy is when I noticed that I started getting all these chest infections. And they're worse without the tonsils. They really are. And so at that point, she was like, well, yeah, and she just looks at me like, of course that's what it is, because you're missing that part of your immune system. And I was like, wow. And I straight up told her, like, you're the first doctor that has ever acknowledged that, because I've talked to other doctors about it in the past as well. And they just say, oh, that's weird. That doesn't make any sense. And it's like they're taught and conditioned to believe, like many of us are, that our tonsils are not important and that they do not serve a purpose, but they do. Everything in our body is there for a reason. I think even our appendixes are there for a reason. But things like your gallbladder, things like tonsils, like, yes, you can live without these things, but that doesn't mean that, it's going to come without consequences. And I'm definitely not anti-tonsillectomy, I will say that, because obviously I had one, I had to have one. I fought having one for at least a year. Really, I probably should have had one earlier on, but I was in such bad shape. Like, I did a whole video on it, so I'm not going to get into it, but it was bad, and I was so sick all the time. So I didn't really have a choice. And sometimes we're just not left with a choice sometimes when it comes to certain things. And So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm really comforted in knowing that there's nothing serious going on, no health conditions, no respiratory conditions, just not having the tonsils sucks because I do get sick easier. Well, I tend to, come down with a cold or just something really basic, and then it just turns into a chest infection or bronchitis. So I have to just be really careful to not let it turn into pneumonia. And it's like my doctor was saying too, there's a lot of research, there are so many studies that have been done that have shown that not having tonsils definitely can and does lead to a significant increased chance of chest infections, more frequent chest infections, and much higher prevalence of pneumonia. Now, this is especially in like older people, but even younger people too, and just a higher prevalence of all kinds of, asthma, like adult onset asthma. So it's important to look out for stuff like that. So, but then again, my dad had a tonsillectomy when he was a kid, and he's like me, he does tend to get bronchitis and chest infections quite frequently, and they can get pretty nasty sometimes, but he doesn't get pneumonia, he doesn't have asthma, he doesn't have any conditions either, and he smokes, and he's been smoking since he was 17, and he is now 61. So he's really lucky, honestly. But my uncle had a tonsillectomy. He doesn't get pneumonia. He's the same way. He gets bronchitis and stuff like that. But he did have COVID. I guess it was last summer. The Delta strain that was really virulent. He did have COVID, and he was hospitalized for 5 days on oxygen, and then he was discharged. But but yeah, so, and he was also not vaccinated, but whatever your opinion is on that, I really don't care. I'm just stating kind of some experiences that I've seen and firsthand seen on my own. So, anyways, and I know some other people as well, but I don't think, and my uncle, by the way, he's also like 72 or 71 years old or something like that. I don't even know. So he's older, don't get me wrong. In really good shape though. But, I just look around and I'm like, well, yeah, I don't have the tonsils, but that doesn't mean I still can't live a normal life. And when you have young kids at home, for those of you that are parents, that your kids get sick pretty frequently when they're little. They're building up their immunities, so in turn it just makes sense you get sick more frequently too. It's like no matter how many supplements you take, no matter how much you exercise or try to take care of yourself, it's like, yes, you will still get sick more with younger children in general. Now there are some people out there that just never get sick. That is the case for some people, but for most people, you do tend to get sick more when you have the small kids that are also getting sick more frequently. That's just part of it. But that's kind of where I'm at right now as well. So, the best I can do is just try to prevent getting sick in general, which I do for my whole family. And then if I do get sick, well, I just watch it and do everything I can to avoid having to go get antibiotics and steroids. But if it's getting bad, and I always feel it when I know that I'm not going to be able to get rid of it on my own, then I will go to urgent care or my regular doctor and get antibiotics, and sometimes, more often than not, steroids as well. And I don't feel any shame in that. I feel like I don't want to risk getting pneumonia and potentially dying or being hospitalized. So that's just where I stand. I think, like I said before, I believe in approaching every ailment from a standpoint, a versatile standpoint. And I feel like a lot of people don't do that. And I think that's a big problem we have in the holistic health and wellness community, is that people are just so incredibly, like, some people can be so anti modern medicine, anti conventional, like, oh, don't do this, don't do that. Don't ever take a prescription medication, no matter what you do, never. But, for some of us, that's the only thing that has worked, and I can honestly say I would definitely not be here if it weren't for modern medicine. But I did have pneumonia one time. I've talked about it before. It was like a walking pneumonia. I was still fully functional. I did feel absolutely horrible, but I was still, exercising, cleaning the house, all that kind of thing. I was not aware that I had pneumonia, but what happened was I got bronchitis from a cold or whatever, and I let it go too long. I let it go at least a day or two longer than I should have, and I ended up with a really, really high fever, about 104, something like that. And they came in and they were like, yeah, you've definitely got pneumonia. And I was like, ugh. I mean, I was coughing up like white stuff, like it was just horrible. And unfortunately, after that bout of illness, I coughed for literally months. Like I didn't feel bad, but I had issues for months. And so I feel like it's really important, if you are someone like me that gets sick like that, to just catch it early. Don't feel bad about taking antibiotics and or steroids. Just do what you have to do to take care of yourself, because you could potentially end up with a far worse scenario. So that's just my 2 cents for what it's worth. But as my little health update, sorry, just to recap, um, everything is going pretty well. Everything is actually better than I expected. You know, like I say, I did have a couple of bouts of bronchitis recently, and I had a few colds before that, but I also did not get sick for, I think it was 19 months, um, around the time COVID-19 hit, and I just didn't get sick at all. And so I feel like a lot of that is also immune building, and my kids, you know, getting a little bit more sick more frequently as well. So, anyways, but that's about it. So, I feel like everything is better now. I feel like everything is going well. So, that's about it. That's about all I have to say. So, I'm happy with my health for the most part. It's just that one little thing, but we all have something. So, I just have to deal with it and keep an eye on it and just keep doing the best I can, living the best life I can. And so, I feel fortunate that it's not something worse. I feel lucky. I feel just happy about where I'm going with my health in general. So I love you all. I will see you in my next video.